I'm about to share with you 3 supreme recipes, and I don't use that word lightly. Trust me when I say these recipes are gonna wanna make you jump into your kitchen and get to cooking straight away. A few weeks back in a What I Eat in a Week video, I shared this egg fried quinoa. I told you that I have been loving it. I've also got this creamy chicken pasta recipe, very similar to my salmon creamy pasta. It's completely dairy free. We're gonna be whipping up the most gorgeous coconut sauce. This one for sure will be a star crowd pleaser. Don't even get me started on the other recipe. I'm gonna be sharing this black bean and beef chili, the perfect midweek comfort meal. All of these recipes have a focus on being incredibly delicious, plus they are all high in protein and they are all dairy free. For more inspiration, more ideas in the kitchen, you can check out all of my recipe ebooks over on my website at www.tishwonders.co.uk. Let me know which recipe you're gonna be running to the store to get all of the ingredients to make as soon as you can. A big thank you to AG1 for sponsoring today's video. More about that in a bit, but now we're gonna jump into the first recipe. Let's do it, let's go. Putting together a meal from odds and ends that I have left over in my fridge, in my kitchen, will forever be one of my favorite ways to create a recipe. I just feel like it really stretches your imagination, makes you put things together that maybe you wouldn't have. This is exactly how this egg fried quinoa was born. And let me tell you, when you get a taste for this egg fried quinoa, this one will be on constant repeat in your kitchen, just like it has been in mine. Not only is this one absolutely delicious, this is also satiating. This is food that's gonna make you feel good. So for ingredients, we're gonna be using some quinoa. I always like to mention that I prefer to soak my quinoa, even if it's just an hour beforehand. I feel like it makes all the difference. This will help remove the bitterness from the quinoa. It's always ideal to soak seeds, nuts, and grains. So if you do have the time to do that beforehand and you remember, then I would definitely recommend it. So for this egg fried quinoa, I'm going to be using a combination of carrots, peppers, spring onions. I wanted to throw some red onions in there too, lots of ginger and garlic. So of course I'm going to be using some eggs for the egg fried quinoa. This will go in at the last stage. I'm also going to be using some prawns as my extra additional source of protein. If you'd prefer an alternative, you could definitely use chicken, you could use beef. If you want a vegan option, tofu tempeh would work perfectly. So we're keeping it simple with the sauces. I've got this teriyaki sauce, which I have already in my fridge. It's a shop bought one, and I'm going to be adding in a touch of miso at the end as well. Lastly, I'm going to be using lots of lime to finish this dish. So whether you soaked it or not, give your quinoa a good wash and rinse. Place it into a pan, placing in the curry powder. I also added in a little extra turmeric. I placed in some salt. I brought my quinoa to a boil, and then I reduced the heat, covering up the saucepan and just leaving it to cook until it looked something like this. So if you like to multitask in the kitchen, you can prep your vegetables whilst your quinoa is cooking. That's what I did. So I chopped up my courgettes, I chopped up the red peppers into like little cubes. Then I prepared my carrots, which I used my peeler to do. So I just ribboned them, really, really simple. I just love the way that they cook when they are ribboned like this, especially in a stir fry. I followed on by chopping up the spring onions, the red onions, grating all of that ginger, lots and lots of ginger, and finally chopping up the garlic. So using a large pan or wok, I went ahead and I heated up some oil. I chose to use a little bit of coconut oil. Then I threw in my garlic and ginger, just cooking that down. The next step was to throw in the courgettes and the red peppers. I seasoned with a little bit of salt and pepper and just continued moving everything in that pan on the high heat. I throw my vegetables in a particular order. Everyone, do as you want, do as you please, but this is just how I personally like to cook my egg fried quinoa. The next vegetable to go in are the red onions, followed on by the ribboned carrots and the spring onions. So I just continued to move everything in the pan for a few extra minutes until the carrots had kind of cooked. I moved all of the vegetables to the side, throwing in my prawns, initially seasoning the prawns with some garlic powder, some chili flakes, a good squeeze of lime juice. Once the prawns had cooked, I threw in that teriyaki sauce, just mixing everything, combining everything well. These prawns as they are would be a perfect meal, especially over some like coconut rice or something like that. Obviously, we're not stopping here. We still need to throw in the quinoa and we still need to stir fry the eggs as well. So yeah, we're going to throw in that cooked quinoa, just mixing everything well. If you're a whisk your egg type of person before you throw them in a stir fry, then yeah, go ahead and whisk your eggs. If you want to just crack them straight into the pan, that's also fine. Like with the prawns, I'm going to move everything over to the side just so I can cook the eggs on one side of the pan. So that's what I did. I just shifted everything over, threw in my eggs and just cooked them on one side of the pan, and then just combined them with the rest of the quinoa and the vegetables and the prawns. To finish everything off, right at the end, I added in a little bit of miso. I'm using some white miso here and some chopped fresh coriander. Of course, gonna have some coriander. You can also squeeze over some extra lime juice if you want to as well. So the best part in preparing this stir-fried quinoa is to plate it up. So yeah, go ahead, plate your quinoa up. Those stir-fried vegetables with those juicy prawns, quinoa itself, which has so much flavor from the curry powder. You get hints of chili, coriander. The egg just finishes everything off. Lots and lots of lime juice. As far as one pan, one pot meals go, this is definitely a strong contender in being one of my favorites ever. A big thank you to this week's sponsor, which is AG1. You guys already know how particular I am when it comes to nourishing my body, what I feed my body, how I move my body, generally how I take care of myself. AG1 is a daily functional nutritional supplement which supports whole body health. A few months back, a family member mentioned that they have been taking it consistently and that it's been a complete game changer for them in terms of energy, focus, and gym performance. That was the one that stood out for me. One of the most noticeable differences that I have found since taking AG1 consistently is how I feel after training, especially if I do kind of like a lot of cardio or HIIT. I love training in the morning, so that is not a good time for me to feel any way other than energized and ready for my day. Taking AG1 has definitely given me that boost in my step that I needed very much so after training. I'm such a research type person, like I want to know what the benefit of this is, what the benefit of that is. AG1 is a science-driven formulation of 75 vitamins and whole food sourced nutrients. I love the fact that it contains one of my favorite medicinal mushrooms, which is reishi mushroom. It also contains both prebiotics and probiotics. You might be wondering, what does AG1 taste like? I've done a lot of green type of powders in my life. This is by far the most palatable. It's kind of got like a fruity taste. I actually quite enjoy it, so that's a plus. If you're curious and you want to give AG1 a try, head over to drinkag1.com/tishwonders to get a 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 AG1 travel packs for free with your first purchase. Such a great offer. Once again, thank you AG1 for sponsoring today's video. Let's jump straight into the next recipe. This is my creamy chicken pasta, very similar to the creamy salmon pasta that I shared way back, which so many of you loved. We're gonna use coconut milk, which makes this completely dairy-free, which I know will be great for many of you. We're gonna be adding in Scotch bonnet, peppers, tomatoes, courgettes, thyme. You have to try this one. Ingredients for this creamy chicken pasta include shallots, just because they've got kind of like a sweet touch to them, but no worries, if you only have regular white onions, they will work perfectly too. We're also going to use some fresh thyme. We're going to need some Scotch bonnet for that spicy kick. The most important thing is to use vegetables that you enjoy, that you love. For this recipe in particular, I like to use courgettes, peppers, and tomatoes. We're still rocking with summer produce, so yeah, let's make the most of it whilst it's here, whilst it's in season, whilst it tastes delicious. The key component to the creaminess of this recipe, this is what makes this a creamy chicken pasta. We're going to be using coconut milk. Believe me, once you cook that coconut milk down, it will be the most perfect creamy pasta sauce. If you're not a fan of coconut milk and you want a creamy alternative, you could use regular cream. That would work, of course, or you could use a vegan substitute. Something like oat cream would work. We're going to finish this pasta dish off with lots of fresh parsley. We're going to start off by seasoning up our chicken. If you have leftover chicken, say you cooked like a whole roast chicken and you want to throw that in, then obviously you can skip this step. I'm using some chicken breasts, which I just cut up. So yeah, take your washed chicken, place it into a bowl. So we're going to season with some salt, some pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, cumin. We're going to use a touch of paprika, chili flakes. I threw over some dried mixed herbs, splashed in a little bit of tamari. I actually added in a little bit of minced garlic too and drizzled over some olive oil. Maybe you want to leave your chicken in the fridge overnight. It's completely optional. If you are cooking it straight away, then place it onto a lined baking tray. I like to cover my tray with some foil and place it into a preheated oven of about 200 degrees Celsius. You can let your chicken cook for like 25 to 30 minutes, making sure it is cooked thoroughly. So once your chicken is cooked, you can go ahead and remove it from the oven. You can slice it up. So the next step is to prepare all of our vegetables. So that includes chopping up our courgettes, roughly chopping up our cherry tomatoes. You want to chop up your red pepper, finally chop up the shallots and garlic, and we are going to chop up that Scotch bonnet. If you prefer to just put it in whole and then remove it at the end, that's completely fine. Next, we're going to heat a pan on like a medium heat. We're going to throw a little bit of oil in and then throw in our shallots, our garlic, and our Scotch bonnet. If you're throwing the Scotch bonnet in, like this, and we're just going to cook everything down for a couple of minutes. We're going to soften everything. We're going to continue to stir, giving it some salt and some pepper. I threw in some herb de Provence. You could use like any kind of mixed herb blend that you have. I then threw in some fresh thyme along with the chopped cherry tomatoes, just cooking everything. Everything at this point will already be smelling delicious. We're then going to throw in those sliced peppers, continuing just to mix everything down, let all those flavors cook down and all of the ingredients merge together. Once those cherry tomatoes begin to soften, we are going to pour in our coconut milk. Believe me, you have to trust the process with the coconut milk. It will cook down and it will thicken up. Place the lid on and just let this coconut sauce work its magic. Let it do its thing. Just leave it for about 10 to 15 minutes. You can stir it occasionally, just keep an eye on it. The smell in your kitchen will be out of this world. You're going to have a really rich, creamy coconut, delicious Scotch bonnet infused, thyme infused pasta sauce. I like my courgettes to have a little bit of a bite. I don't want them overcooked. So I threw my courgettes in and just let everything continue to cook down. Whilst the courgettes were cooking, I went ahead and I put my pasta on to cook. So with the pasta being cooked, the chicken being cooked, we're going to combine everything. So go ahead and throw your pasta into the sauce along with the chicken. If you want, you can throw a touch of the pasta water in and finish with that parsley. That parsley makes all the difference. The only thing left to do is to serve your pasta up. So grab your plate, your bowl, whatever you want to serve it on, and go ahead and put that pasta on top. Every time I cook any version of this recipe with that coconut sauce, I am lost for words. I like to drizzle over a little bit of olive oil, of course, no surprise. This bowl right here is a slice of summer heaven. Many of you would have tried the similar salmon version of this, so you already know that salmon works well. Also, chickpeas for a plant-based alternative would work really well. I am so confident that you are going to love this creamy chicken pasta recipe. It is delicious. When it comes to cooking minced beef, ground beef, this is one of my favorite all-time recipes. The flavor combinations are out of this world. What I love most about this recipe is that it's really simple to put together. It's a great balance of different types of protein. We've got the beef, yet we've got the black beans, so this is easily adaptable. If you want to keep it totally just with the black beans, you can work it that way. If you want a combination of both, perfect. So for this beef and black bean chili, we're going to be needing some black beans. I'm using some cartoned, pre-cooked black beans for ease and convenience. We're also going to be needing some minced beef. If you're in the States, I know you guys call it ground beef. The spice blend that's going to take center stage in this recipe is called baharat. It's a combination of paprika, coriander, black pepper, cumin, cinnamon, cayenne, cloves, nutmeg, cardamom. You'll easily be able to find baharat in your supermarkets. I love the fact that it's all blended already. I don't have to take out individual spices for those days when I just feel like simplicity. This is one of my favorite spice blends that I turn to. I like to chop carrots up and put them into the chili along with some peppers. We're going to be adding in the basics, so onions and garlic. We're also going to be needing some tinned tomatoes. Any tinned tomatoes, you could use plum tomatoes, chopped tomatoes. I'm using some tinned cherry tomatoes. You can serve the chili up with whatever you want. If you just prefer to have it with some greens, that will work really well. Maybe you want to serve it with some potatoes or some quinoa. I'm going to serve my chili up with some white basmati. We're going to finish this dish with lots of fresh coriander. If you're not a fan of coriander, you can just leave it out, or if you want to use something in place, you could definitely use parsley. So to begin with, we're going to peel and we're going to chop our onion up. I like to chop mine as finely as possible using a sharp knife with a steady hand. We're going to peel and chop our garlic, just chopping up again as finely as possible. We're going to grab our peppers. I'm seeing a lot of green peppers at the moment. Green peppers would also work in this, but I've got some red peppers. So yeah, we're going to finely dice our red peppers. And lastly, we're going to chop up our carrots. So grab a pan, heat it on like a low to medium heat, and swirl in a little bit of olive oil. We're going to throw in our chopped onions and our garlic, and we're just going to sweat everything just until everything kind of softens for a couple of minutes. We're going to season with some salt and some pepper, and then we're going to throw in our diced red peppers. So continue stirring everything, mixing everything, cooking everything down. Once everything in the pan is softened, we're going to throw in our minced beef and we're going to season it straight away. Throw over some salt, grab that baharat and throw that over, and then just break the beef down, making sure everything gets nice and brown. I like to splash in a bit of tamari because tamari is my best friend in the kitchen, but that is totally optional. So once the beef has got a nice brown to it, we're going to throw in our tinned tomatoes. So yeah, just throw them in, crushing them if you're using something like plum tomatoes or cherry tomatoes. I threw in a little bit of tomato paste just because I felt like it needed some, and I just continued cooking everything. The next step was to throw in the black beans along with the carrots. You then want to add in some type of stock or broth. I had some beef broth, so I just used that. But of course, stock will work just as well. I just felt like throwing in some dried herbs. I also added in a touch of sugar, which is completely optional. If you cook the tomatoes down for long enough, you're just going to allow the natural sugars, the natural sweetness to come out. I just felt like adding in a touch of sugar. So go ahead and reduce the heat, covering the pan. Leave it for about a good 20 to 25 minutes. You just kind of want to slow cook it, stirring occasionally. When everything is cooked and just bubbling away and just smelling gorgeous in your kitchen, once the carrots are softened and the chili is just looking gorgeous, you will know when it's ready to serve. Believe me when I say there is good reason why this is one of my favorite beef dishes. So go ahead and serve up your beef and black bean chili. Like I said, I love to serve mine with some basmati rice. Just look how incredible this chili is. If you want to be really extra like me, go ahead and cook up some plantain, serve it with some plantain. I love adding on a little bit of yogurt, lots of fresh coriander, some more black pepper. This is such a wonderful comfort meal, a great recipe to take into the colder months with you. I can't get enough of this one. After watching these recipes, which one are you gonna make first? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you all soon in my next video. Everyone take care. See you soon. Bye.